right, everybody, welcome back to Dish Nation, and I am so excited about this. Our in-studio guest has served as the 47th Vice President of the United States of America, and he was everybody's favorite uncle-in-chief, and who is now running for commander-in-chief. Let's give a big round of applause, Democratic presidential candidate Joseph R. Biden.
How are you, man? Mr. President, good to see you.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I'm running for, want to be on the ticket with you.
I tell you, you look good, man. You look good. I think you can play any position in my administration.
Yes, sir. I would represent. So we are so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here.
And watched the debate last night. Good job.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So I got a few questions. We're gonna do the serious
Fire away,
ones,
man.
and then we're gonna do the fun ones. We're gonna have a good time.
All right.
So we're just not gonna be serious because this is a hip hop radio show and Dish Nation. All right. So the minorities in the United States are facing a lot of discrimination with everything that's going on in this climate. How do you intend on making sure that minorities receive equal opportunities, equal rights in the justice system, and protections from discrimination?
Well, first of all, look, this is the most racist president we've had in I think ever. Number one. Number two, the way he's gone out and coddled white supremacists, and he's hate doesn't go away; it just hides, and he's giving it oxygen. When you saw those folks coming out of the fields down in Virginia, in Charlottesville, their veins bulging, screeching hate, accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. And, this guy, when a young woman was killed, the president says, they asked him to comment. He said, well, good people on both sides.
Yeah.
No one's ever said anything like that as President of the United States.
Right.
And so the reason I'm running, Rickey, and for real, is to restore the soul of America. And what's happening now is that the way in which African Americans are treated has not improved since we left office. It's just gotten worse. And so I would make sure, number one, the right to vote, we would have an incredible enforcement effort to make sure that those states, and there have been 36 of them, have tried to pass laws to make it more difficult for folks to vote, particularly African Americans, that they, in fact, are taken to court, and we beat them. That's what we did in our administration.
Right.
In addition to that, we have to make sure that we provide educational opportunity for folks. Look, last night I said I got criticized saying I come out of the black community. What I did, that's where I got my political education. And HBCUs are incredibly, incredibly important. We're not investing nearly enough money in them. And so I propose we invest $70 billion in HBCUs because it is the core of what, in fact, is going to be the future of the country.
Right.
And they don't have those great endowments. And in addition to that, when Barack and I were president and vice president, we made sure that these HBCUs got organizational structures that were allowed to do research. All these big universities, they compete for funding to work on cyber research, to work on a whole range of things. Well, we've got to bring the HBCUs into that mix. And we have to reform the criminal justice system. I mean, look, right now, no one should be going to jail for drug use. I wrote in the law that there be drug courts. They should be diverted into drug courts, not into prisons, and they should go to rehabilitation. There's just a whole range of things. It's a broad question, but I think voting rights, number one, reforming the criminal justice system, number two, to make it one that, for example, up until Brock and I came along, you get let out of prison after serving your time, you get a bus ticket and $25, you end up under the bridge.
Right.
And we should make sure that every person who served their time comes out and they qualify for Pell Grants, they qualify for housing, they qualify for every single program out there because they want to be citizens who, in fact, have a shot. Right. But sending folks back to where they were with no background and no training in terms of what could take place in prison is just a big mistake. I know I'm going on here, but there's a lot of things that we can do that are in our wheelhouse.
So, in your eyes, what is the most critical issue in the United States that we're facing today? Most critical issue.
I think the most critical issue is climate change, because if we don't start to deal with it, we're in real trouble. Not just this generation, but future generations. And so that's the most critical. But in terms of the soul of the country, The most critical thing is that we begin to treat people in a way that we're designed. Look, we're unique in the world. We've never fully lived up to this, but, we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal, or in order to form a more perfect union. We've never lived up to it, but we've never walked away from it before. And we've always widened the arc of inclusion. And this guy has shut it down. This guy has walked away. And it is critically important, not only for treating people decently at home, but it affects our international standing. The rest of the world looks at us and goes, what in God's name is going on with the United States of America?
Yeah.
And so I think one is more of a total attitude change, and the other one is working specifically to deal with things that can produce not only climate change or stop climate change and produce real change, creating millions of new jobs, and millions of jobs, not at $15 an hour, but at $45 an hour.
Right.
And we should focus on those neighborhoods which are the most damaged by climate change. Because, if you live in a bad neighborhood, you're likely to be near the refinery. You're likely to be where the water's bad. You're likely to be, because everything gets piled on to people who already have a problem.
Right.
And I think we can change a lot of things that way.
So this time of year is where everybody start to enroll in health care. Why do you feel like we have? What do you feel like we are on health care, and what are your plans?
Well, number one of my proudest moments as vice president was standing with Barack, the president. I say Barack not only because he's a friend, but only because I don't want to confuse him with this president. But with President Obama, when he signed the Affordable Care Act. And the fact is that it made a gigantic difference in the lives of all Americans, particularly African Americans. And we should build on that. And what we should do is, I propose building on Obamacare. I'm against anybody who wants to tear it down. Adding to it what we call a public option, meaning that you could, if you wanted to be in a Medicare system, you could in fact choose that. What I don't like about the alternative being offered is you get no choice. If you, in fact, want Medicare for all, you must give up any insurance policy you have if you have one. And, in fact, you have to move in the direction that they say. I think it should be a choice for the American people. I think they should have a choice to decide whether they want to keep their insurance that a lot have with strong policies with labor unions and others. But if they want to change, they should be able to choose the Medicare option, which I propose.
All right, so about to do a little fun segment or whatever, because I know you get asked the tough questions all the time. So we're going to do this segment called Getting to Know Joe.
Uh-oh.
All right, so what music of Joe Biden listen to these days?
Well, I don't have my phone with me, but we talked a little bit earlier. I like the Eagles.
Yeah.
For example.
Hotel California.
You got it. Well, more than that. I mean, the other one, I like Dionne Warwick. I still have her on my.
Really?
No, I do.
I know. And I never loved
you're
this
all right.
way
You
again.
got it, man.
So I can.
And so there's just I think I like a variety. I like a variety of music. And so for me, it goes all the way from, dealing with folks like, Celine Dion, who's not doing much right now. She's starting back in a big way, all the way to, listen to some hip-hop artists. But,
Absolutely.
And by the way.
So who pump you up before you go on stage? Like, everybody have that one song before you go on stage, like one song you like to listen to kind of get you up and ready, fired up?
There's a bunch. One of the ones I like is that, well, I shouldn't even say it probably. But what I like is that the song "You're the Best."
Right.
And I like it because it reminds me of my wife. And so I just like up tempo.
Right.
And
now, back in the day, you were actually a pretty successful car salesman. But what was your first job that you got fired from?
Well, actually, my dad ran an automobile agency. I never was a car salesman. What I used to do is just to drive. There's a big thing called the Mannheim Auto Auction. I'd go up for the dealers and bring those cars back when I was in school. And the only job I've never gotten fired from a job, because the only job I had, I was a public defender.
Right.
I left a job with a fancy law firm to become a public defender because my city was the only city occupied by the National Guard since the Civil War after Dr. King was assassinated and a large part of it was burned down.
Right.
And so I left and became a public defender, but I didn't get fired from that. I left, and then I ran for office, and so I haven't been fired yet. I could get fired from the primary, I guess. I haven't been fired yet.
Now, in your free time, what are some of your favorite things to do?
Well, one of the favorite things to do, it's going to sound corny, is spend time with my granddaughters, my grandson. But what I like to do is I also like to I took up golf really late. In my neighborhood, if you golfed, you got beat up.
Right.
But when I got to be in my 49 years old, I had a couple major operations, a cranial. I had what they call embolism.
Right.
And I took the top of my head off a couple times. The wag said the reason they went in the second time is they couldn't find a brain the first time. But anyway, what I asked the docs. I said, "What can I do while I'm healing?" They said, "You can do three things. You can ride a stationary bike, which I do. You can lift weights, which I do, and you can play golf." I said, "I've never played golf, man." And I wasn't allowed to go back to work for a while, so I'd sneak off to a golf range, and I kind of got hooked a little bit. But I haven't played in a long time.
Right. All right, so do you have a secret talent or skills that we don't know about? Secret talent or skills?
I'm not sure I should talk about it. No.
I mean, you can say anything these
No,
days.
I'm not. Look, I don't think I have any secret talent or skill. I think the bad news about me is no one doubts on me what I say, but sometimes I say all what I mean. It's all out there. So
Right.
I don't think there's much secret about me at all.
All right. So what do you want to say to the young people that's out there that think that their vote don't count?
I tell you what.
That feel like they've been left out. What do you say to the young voters?
Well, they have been left out, number one. Number two, if young voters voted in the same percentage in 2008 in 2012 and 14 and then 18, what happened was if you voted the same percentage the rest of the population voted, there'd be 5.2 million more people under the age of 25 voting. And my message to y'all is you can own this election. You can own this election. You can impact on your future in ways I don't think you can do, but you can. And so if you vote, and by the way, look at all those races across the country where somebody lost by 2, 10, 12, 15 votes. What you don't want to do is you don't want to wake up on the day after Election Day and find out you still have Donald Trump as a president of the United States. You don't want to wake up and have some of the governors who are going after everything relating to from voting rights to women's rights. And so there's a lot of things that are at stake here. The young people, are the center of all the concerns that everybody has, whether it's education, opportunity, whether it's the opportunities you have to serve the country in ways that I don't even think people realize. Just remember what I tell my kids, that you can do anything you set your mind to. It's not hyperbole. You can do anything you set your mind to.
Look right in that camera and tell them that.
You can do anything you set your mind to. Not a joke. Not a joke. You can. And what I'm going to do, if I'm your president, is make every single opportunity to increase the prospects you have access. Because we still have systemic racism in this country. There's a lot of things we have to do to break it down. Barack and I made progress, but there's a lot more we have to do. And so get engaged. Make people, the only way they're going to pay attention to you is, in fact, you vote. That's how they'll pay attention. You can own this. You can own it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 8 years as vice president and 36 years in the United States Senate, the one and only Vice President Joe Biden. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you
so much.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't expect you to look such in good shape, man. I tell you what, man, you're making me feel bad.
Nah, man. Hey, you the one. I couldn't find this on in time.
I tell you what,
last time I wore this tie, to the White House, and I have a picture.
Well, come back, keep it. I
Yes,
promise. By the way, I'm going to make a commitment.
Yeah.
You're going to hear it. If I get elected president, you'll be the first radio show I'll do.
Oh!
Thanks.
Thank
You're
you.
good.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for coming.